Okay, now I will actually get started. Hi, I think we've mostly met. I'm David Reinstein. This is the first event that the Unjournal is co-hosting, inaugurating the Unjournal Prize. The event is about making research better and more impactful, particularly by improving the ways that we evaluate research. And I want to thank everyone for coming. Thanks to the presenters. Thanks for the co-host, Center for Open Science and Effective Thesis, for your involvement. I'm looking forward to your feedback and to learning more about what you're up to and engaging in conversations. I want this to be interactive and productive. So to kick things off, let me start by making the case that research should be evaluated publicly, independently of journals or publications, and using quantified ratings. Then I'll give you an overview of what we're doing at the Unjournal and our thinking behind it and our progress. Finally, I'll present some of what I think are the major challenges for your feedback and suggestions and how you might want to get involved. And all the presentation notes should be available at, all the presentation should be available at the conference link. So what is the basic case I'm trying to make here? So we have an old system. The system that we're using now is based on an old system that was built in a world of snail mail, as we call it, and printing press. We spent a lot of time, even when I was a graduate student, bending journal bindings over copy machines at the library. So these journals imposed a natural filter, which was space in a printed journal. But we've been relying on this as the default filter for too long, I claim, because we can do other better things now. Have we lived up to the promise of the technology is the question I'm asking. We now, given information technology, other innovations like open working paper archives are freed from journal monopolies over dissemination and curation. We have the technical ability to publish anything to the whole world for free with beautiful, living, transparent formats. And we can communicate and give anonymous or public feedback instantly in very sophisticated ways. But evaluation, credibility, and career capital are still locked into these journals. So for instance, the tenure track criteria at the Department of Economics at Bonn University cites at least one article published in a top 5 general interest journal in economics and a number of published articles in, quote, top field journals, and et cetera. So this book has become sort of a prison for us, is the claim I'm making. But if we could do credible journal-independent public evaluation, this would unleash a range of benefits, and that's what we're trying to do. So open access is one of them. Journals don't need to own the research. We can reclaim billions of dollars in rents taken by for-profit publishers and intermediaries. And more importantly, the paywalls, I think more importantly, the paywalls and subscription fees lock out researchers, particularly those from the global south or periphery, however you want to call it. Open access also has all sorts of other advantages in terms of public communication. We can all be on the same page. We can reuse. We can do things better, meta-analysis, replication. We can also have evaluation across the research life cycle if the only outcome isn't publication in a printed volume. And Macy Daly will speak to that in her presentation on life cycle assessment. When the journal publication is not the only outcome, people will care about the evaluations of research plans and the credibility of their work after the publication. Research can be a living thing, and you can improve the research without having to pretend it's a new paper cluttering the literature. Now, there's 3 things that I want to highlight that I think the other speakers won't be highlighting. Dynamic, transparent formats, more informative assessment, and reducing the game playing, making better focus on research itself. These things, formats like this, can allow people to robustness check. You know, can look at a paper carefully. How robust is it? There's something called multiverse analysis. This isn't well supported by journals in hundreds of pages long appendix PDFs. But if you can have the thing being evaluated be something that's hosted that people can interact with, well, independent evaluation will encourage this to be part of the research practice. And other forms of interaction can convey so much more than just printed lines in PDF prison, as you might call it. So I encourage you to check out distill.pub, which was a really good example of this. And then, of course, dynamic documents are also not well supported by journals. For open science, you can produce the results, see the results, show the results. People can open the code if they like to know exactly what they're seeing and check it. And this is the format that best supports open science and transparency and replicability, but it's not well supported by journals. But of course, if you can host your Quarto or Jupyter document and have that be the thing that's evaluated, then we'll be doing what it'll encourage people to do much better practice. And finally, we can do better assessment if the only thing isn't what journal it got into. And that's what we're trying to do at the Unjournal. And in our session where I'll be discussing these different metrics we're using, these structured assessment, sorry, we'll be discussing, I'm hoping to get feedback on this. I'll get into this in more detail. So rather than just saying, where did the paper end up? Did it end up in a top 5 journal? Did it end up in something called a top field journal? But wait, maybe there's no top field journal in that field. Maybe the author had to get the paper in quickly for tenure. Maybe it underplaced, maybe it overplaced. We can be much more precise. And we're asking people to make an overall percentile assessment, as well as something I'm saying, known currency ranking. So people can relate the rating that we're giving to the currency they're used to. We can also give multidimensional assessments, which could be very helpful for people who may actually want to use the research, including other researchers, including people who want to make policy or fund different interventions or meta-analysis. Maybe we give 6 different multidimensional categories. We're still working on the best formulation of that, but maybe some people care a lot more about, did the paper advance knowledge? Other people might care about, well, can I just trust these results? Should I update my beliefs based on these results? How much should I believe these results? And we are rating it, giving ratings in a way, we're asking evaluators to give ratings in a way that allows you to say, all right, this is the thing I care about. I will filter based on this. I will compare based on this. I will weight based on this. Journals don't do that. Or if they do, they're basically ignored. Basically, what counts now is what tier of journal you get into, and we're trying to change that. We're going to make these ratings and evaluations public, both the structured evaluations and the descriptive evaluations, which should make scientific standards much more transparent, foster discussion, enhance understanding and trust. Rather than elites saying, this is hot right now, we have, this should be more out in the open. And I think it'll have a lot of value. Finally, I think perhaps the greatest value is the current system is very inefficient. It's risky for academics. It takes a long time. And it encourages people to spend about half their time, I would argue, not making the research better, but figuring out how they can get the research to place better. So, you have the system, you submit, the conventional wisdom is your presentation and submission strategy matters a lot, and how our editors and the referees, and a new editor loves this work, so let's submit it to this journal. We can incentivize people to do this and to repeat ad nauseum, get rejected, submit somewhere else, or we can have a much simpler system, which I think would be pretty obvious to anyone designing the system. Just have people share their work publicly, which they already do in many fields like economics. Get prompt, credible public evaluation that has a meaning. Then once you get that evaluation, even if it takes a few months, you then have something that you can show, demonstrate the credibility of the research, helping you in your career. And then if you like, you can improve the research based on the suggestions. You don't have to pretend it's a new paper, and you can get another evaluation. Okay, so what initiatives are out there? There are a few initiatives out there. We're not the first people on this. The Unjournal is not the first people or the only people in this space, but we have a bit of a different focus and a bit of a different approach. So I'll talk about our approach briefly. That's the slide I meant to show. So our basic approach, people are either submitting work or we're selecting the work, particularly from prestigious collections, because we're trying to bring some credibility and prestige to what we're doing. And then once the work's either submitted or nominated by someone on the team, we have a systematic way of prioritizing the research for its impact potential through voting. People on the team are voting on this. People are weighing in on it. Then we assign an evaluation manager, kind of like the managing editor at a journal, and we commission paid expert evaluators. We pay around $500 on average for these evaluations in average compensation, including incentives and prizes, which we'll announce soon. We don't say you can submit to the Unjournal and we will publish it. In fact, we don't publish research, we link research. We publish the evaluation packages. This gives people a way to dive in without having, to have a bridge without having to dive into an icy pond, but also gives us a way of benchmarking our ratings against so-called traditional publication outcomes. So that's the meat of our approach, the gist of our approach. You can see our workflow, things come in various ways. We prioritize it. We assign an evaluation manager. You can see this in more detail on our page, which is really a knowledge base that explains everything we do. And then finally, we put it into an output format, and we try to make that as public and as visible as possible. I'll get to that in a moment. So as I said, we elicit quantifiable metrics, both overall ratings, methodological rigor, practical research advancements, logic and communication, relevance, connections, usefulness to the real world. We also ask, what tier journal would this be published in? Should this be published in? Separate questions. We try to make this very transparent. We have certain focus on impact and robustness. But we also ask people to obviously give full journal reviews of a high quality explaining things. Okay. The goal, we then publish all of this work through our PubPub, give it a DOI, we move it to get it into all of the bibliometric and scholarly research databases. The goal is that authors, editors, referees, and funders should see this work before and after the paper, if it ever is, accepted in a traditional journal. And no other people see it, so they have to take it seriously. They can't ignore what we're doing. Quick word on our progress. We've built good systems and tools, and we continue to improve them as we push forward an ambitious pipeline. We've 12 evaluation packages, 12 research projects have been evaluated. We have 23 in the process of being evaluated. We're targeting a total of 70 in an 18-month period. And we're building systems, we're expanding the pipeline, pushing it through. The knowledge base, the data dashboard, I think I linked to before, depicting our evaluations, aggregating them, working on hosting, evaluation management systems, our own systems, and we're expanding our team and cultivating links with organizations like Knowledge Futures, Center for Open Science, Effective Thesis, Peer Review, Institute for Replication, Replicats, IGDOR, BITS, etc. And we're growing our team. Here's our management team. 2 people will be joining soon. Here's our advisory board. We're continuing to expand and looking for people to join both of these teams. And we have a pretty robust team of field specialists that help us prioritize work and help do the evaluation management across about 8 categories. And then we have 125 people who've signed up to be part of our evaluator pool. Of course, we can reach outside that pool, but we will prioritize people who said, I want to be paid to evaluate work for the Unjournal. And it's a pretty strong pool. Over half have doctorates. Okay, so our main challenges I'll talk about, or we will discuss these in the breakout, are it's a collective action problem. How a lot of people say, most people I talk to say it's a great idea. Most academics, I think, agree that the current system is imperfect and something like this could be better, but I don't want to be the one to take the risk. We want to change that attitude. We want people to think, no, wait, I want to be taking it. I don't want to miss out on this opportunity. And we'll discuss that in the session. So it's a collective action problem, essentially. And then the second problem is we don't have journals. Can we have our ratings have credibility and value through structured evaluation metrics? I'll talk about that in the second breakout session. And I want everyone to get involved, to join our team as a paid evaluator, etc. Join our board. Consider using our ratings. Help us solve this collective action problem by submitting your work to this, sharing work, identifying yourself. Consider valuing our work, citing the evaluations, give us feedback on how to improve it, and recognize people who have engaged with this thing that is seen by some people as risky. It's certainly early adopter. And that's a segue. We're going to recognize some people who have engaged with us now with mentioning the Unjournal prizes.